News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
And I'm Allan Gilbreth with DarkOakMedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian. I don't know where Joe gets the idea that I'm always behind the glass.
Well, okay.
Well, you
right
took it out
gate.
while we were gone. It's kind of fun having you in here.
Right out of the gates, getting things confused. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like. Check out all the action over there. I've already posted two things, Allan. I posted, of course, our must-have item of the week. However, I am very excited about the discussion that's coming up in the second hour of the show. Great moments in building history. Today, Allan. Okay, you and I are. I don't know about you. I'm not a Las Vegas Raiders fan in terms of that's not my team. I'm a long-suffering Chicago Bears fan. Although I did have my big moment in '85. However, today we're going to talk about. It's Allegiant Stadium. They call it the Death Star.
They do.
This thing is a architectural marvel. It's
a beast. Yeah.
And this thing seems to be an outgrowth of all the themes we've discussed on Tool Talk for the last, years.
Forever.
Yeah. So
forever.
it's going to be a fascinating discussion. Great moments in building history. However, Allan, we also are going to dive into the dregs of stupidity when it comes to home improvement. Two floods and a flamed-out compressor.
Oh, my gosh.
If that's not the name of a country song, that's what you told me, Allan, right? This is your baby. You dealt with this.
And the bad thing is that undersells it.
Okay, good. So we've got that. We've got a must-have item of the week. Allan, I've got some suggested viewing. I'm not going to tease it other than to say this is when you learn by what not to do, basically. No, this show represents a lot of emotion when it comes to working with tools and working with the emotional side of craftsmanship. Let's call it that. So
I'm good with that.
And then, of course, Allan, we have to remember this is the 4th of July weekend. This is my favorite holiday of the year.
It is.
I yield to no man in my love for America. I know we're always growing. We're not a perfect nation, but we've done some pretty remarkable things as a country, and we're gonna talk about that a bit
I
too.
get to throw in one thing at this point.
Okay.
And look at you and look at Max and go, happy birthday.
Well, go ahead. Tell us exactly. I know what you mean.
Happy birthday. This, as of just a few seconds ago, is the actual 1 year of News Talk 98.9.
It is. I mean,
we were the remarkably lucky and blessed show that began.
I think we did
this past year.
It began on I think it was July 3rd is when we broadcast. But
Saturday, exactly 1 year ago.
Yeah. So it's been interesting. Max hasn't burned the place down yet. He's still here. But we'd love to hear from you if you've got any thoughts about what's been going on here the last year.
I appreciate that you think that I'm capable of burning the place down.
No.
Well, I've seen how you handle that equipment over there. But yeah, we once again, happy anniversary. If you've been listening, we want to thank you too. Happy anniversary to you, because it's a team effort. Obviously, we don't want to just be talking into the ether. So we'd love to hear from you today of all days. So.
In 1 year, it's kind of shocking. We've expanded to, honestly, around the world.
Well, like you say, yeah.
We get these cool little reports that tell us, where people are downloading from and where people are listening from. And, it's a lot of fun to get those reports now. And, we get to say hello to New Zealand and the Dominican Republic. Our first outside country was the DM.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, then
Jose.
Jose and the guys all down there. We're actually not making that up. Really do. We have a guy down there named Jose.
Oh, yeah. He invited us to stay there if we ever visit.
We got a place to stay if we ever go down. New Zealand, I'm waiting on Australia to kick in.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any Australia, but Great Britain, Scotland, Canada, honestly, it's been kind of a fun adventure this year.
Well, and I want to, as long as we're going down that, I want to say if you're a soldier, because I know there's military people that listen.
Military bases
around,
everywhere.
And
yes.
so if you're out there, man, we'd love to hear from you.
We would. And thank you for your service.
Absolutely. So it is all coming at you today on Tool Talk Radio. It's going to be a big one, Alan.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get to any of that.
And now, Tool Talk Radio's weekly salute.
All right. We got lots of music, right, Max?
He took a deep breath. We're in trouble.
Oftentimes when we are challenged, we tend to excel. When President Kennedy challenged NASA to land Americans on the moon before the end of the decade, they did so on schedule and achieved the greatest success in the history of human exploration. I think that's, you can't argue with that, Alan. When amateur water skier Arthur Fonzarelli was challenged by the California kid to jump a shark on water skis, the Fonz did not only succeed with the stunt, but wound up creating the now famous pop culture idiom, jumping the shark.
Oh, yeah.
I hope we haven't jumped the shark yet, Alan. We're getting there.
I might grill it.
When Max, the producer, wanted a new challenge of physical endurance, he began a regimen of starting his morning doing 200 bare-knuckle push-ups on broken glass, often reflecting as he does so that even this activity is still more pleasant than his Saturday morning producing duties from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
I mean, Arthur Harrow from Moon Knight had a good idea about sticking glass in his sandals.
Yeah, exactly. You need perspective in life, Alan.
Ow.
And, of course, on one noteworthy occasion, when Allan Gilbreth was hosting a cooking demonstration in the parking lot of the Memphis International Raceway on the proper technique for flash frying alligator strip steaks using nothing but a hot car engine.
Oh, yeah. You'd be surprised.
Lynn Neal of the Real Deal Racing Report pulled up and challenged Allan to an impromptu cook-off, bragging that his famous overhead cam calamari would put Allan's dish to shame. Unfortunately, however, before the judges could sample the offerings, representatives from the health department arrived and shut the entire proceedings down, having secretly been tipped off by Bud from the Motor Mouths radio show, who was still furious that his signature exhaust manifold baked moustachioli was not allowed in the competition as it was deemed too pedestrian by Allan and Lynn and completely lacking in any suitable exotic protein. I mean, you guys do have your standards, I guess. I'd like to have seen that one, Allan. I would have.
It was tasty too, man.
Absolutely. And throughout the history of mankind, one of the greatest challenges we faced is the ability to obtain water and move it to the places we need it. Boy, that is not my best transition, Allan.
It's okay.
And this includes the ability to move water around the outside of our homes. In the year, hang on a second. In the year 1870, however, a revolutionary invention was introduced to help with this task that proved so effective that today virtually every home in America and throughout the world has at least one of these items attached to the side of their home. My friends, we give you the garden hose. I think I missed a sentence in there, Allan. Anyway, hey, Allan, the garden hose. Well, I got very distracted. There was a lot going on in this salute today, so
I just got news for you. That the overhead cam calamari was pretty good.
Yeah, seasoning worked and everything. It's a shame it had to go to waste. So, well, Allan, the garden hose is interesting because it's one of these where, there is some clear history. Mm-hmm. I like the notion that it goes back to 400 BC around. I'll let you tell us what that garden hose looked like. So
that garden hose is a little scary. However, the garden hose began as a fire hose.
Right. Yeah,
because in the event of especially kitchen flameouts.
Right.
Because that's where most of the fires happen, because that's where the fire was.
You got a big fire in the middle of your...
All right, well, do you know where the soccer ball came from, Joe?
Are you going to make this a long one? Okay,
no,
go ahead.
I'm just going to ask a simple question.
I do, but yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
It was...
okay, let's just say we used the whole animal back then.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It was a bad day to be a bull. That's all I got to say.
Right.
Bulls' bladders would be removed after the slaughter of the animal for food.
Right.
The bladder would be cleaned and then filled with water, and then you would attach it to the intestines of the bull. And that way, when you jumped on or squeezed the bladder hard enough, you could spray water out of the other end.
Now, we're talking about, because I'm looking at my notes here, Alan. It says the stomach. Is that what we're talking about with the bladder? Because you fill up the
bladder,
stomach.
and a few other parts
It's
that
all
would
connected.
inflate. Right,
Yeah,
that would
I
all
mean,
inflate. Right.
It's interesting because it sounds really unpleasant. You're leaving a stomach with intestines hanging in your kitchens in the event that you got to, pull it out and put out a fire. I'm sure it didn't smell very well after a while, but
all right,
maybe not.
It was tanned.
Okay.
All right, it wasn't
So it's
just
kinda like
raw
leathery.
meat hanging. Exactly, because when we jump forward to Vanderhoosen,
Okay.
of the gentleman who began sewing either linen or leather together to make a pliable length that you could attach water to, these were hand sewn. And they were basically leather.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at it here. There's a Dutch inventor.
Yes.
It says Jan van der Heyden? I don't know.
Van der Heyden.
Van der Heyden in the 1600s. He was, and this was another one for, I think it was primarily for firefighters, which makes sense. I mean, obviously that's a big deal
Right.
if you want to, and so that was pretty revolutionary. However, it looks like the big thing that changed everything and brought about the garden hose that we have today happened in 1870 with the
Yes.
invention of, or not the invention, but the application of rubber.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Well, what they did was they painted the linen hose
Right.
with the chicle extract from the chicle plant.
The chicle. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Okay.
where you remember the gum chiclets.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about?
Yeah, we're basically
I never
talking
really
about the
liked
chicle
chiclets,
plant.
but okay. All right.
Of we would a little later on, it's going to get vulcanized into rubber.
Okay.
But the idea was you coated this, and because it was water impermeable, now more of the water got to where you wanted it to be.
Right.
And today, a hose is anything from a simple cylindrical object that gets water from point A to point B to some pretty impressive engineering. We have expandable hoses, shrinking hoses, soaker hoses. We've got probably 50 different kinds of hose depending upon your purpose.
Well, and I was going to say, Alan, the reason I found the garden hose an interesting discussion topic is because we are talking about two different things. We're talking about a fire hose that was obviously important, but I'm assuming that in those days there was probably a tank attached to it. So if the fire department rolls up, they had a giant tank of water, right?
Okay,
We're talking about the days before we had water towers and
You got to go back to about
plumbing
1820s London and a guy named Tom Hancock.
Okay.
And he was a coach builder. And he had a water coach, and he began experimenting with, again, the rubber, the chicle, the water impervious things painted over the fabric, and was basically waterproofing it so that if you had a fire, they could roll the wagon up and they would start pumping, and more of that water would get onto the building.
Right. Okay. But it wasn't, it's not like you just went up to the fire hydrant and plugged in.
No, not in those days. It was all manpower.
Yeah, because it's interesting that we have these inventions that they are sort of reliant on other ones, because obviously in those days nobody had a garden hose on their house because where would the water come from?
Right, you had no water pressure. Right.
Right. And I one day we're probably going to do a salute to the water tower, but just to tease it right now, the water tower, the brilliance of that was it's basically using gravity to create water pressure. However, and I think the water tower actually goes back a lot further than it was invented, but then it didn't go into mainstream use until they invented plumbing that was rigid enough to handle that pressure.
Correct.
Because, man, we've seen this, Alan, you get one little leak in a water line, it's amazing how much pressure comes out. I mean, you will flood a kitchen in 20 minutes if you
want to
if
tell
get
me
a
about
break.
floods
Yeah,
after
exactly.
my week?
So, but it's simple gravity. It's like water. The way we distribute water around the planet really fascinates me, I have to say.
Well, as a sort of technicality, we can actually go all the way back to the Romans for the ability to move water from one place to another through various aqueducts.
Oh yeah, that was their famous thing,
Which
right?
oddly, some of them are still in use today.
Mm-hmm.
So thousands and thousands of years. But as you pointed out, this is one of these really undersold linchpin type developments. Not so much as one invention, but a series of inventions.
Right.
Because if you look at a modern car, how many hoses are in there? Look at modern hydraulics.
Oh, that's a good point.
Hoses,
it's loaded with it. It's like intestines in your body. So it's like, yeah.
We wouldn't have half of the wonderful things we have without some form of modern hydraulics.
Well,
all based on this idea of a hose.
Yeah. And I have to wonder, of course, having a garden hose is obviously convenient for, watering your lawn and everything. But I have to imagine several probably fires and emergencies have been averted because a fire breaks out and you have the ability to douse it before it gets out of hand. And,
Well, I mean, honestly, in small rural post offices and stuff, and I'm remembering growing up in the great wilds of West Texas, of early on, you would have a barrel of water in the building with a bucket.
So we've seen those bucket chains that people had to do
because everybody smoked.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, as one of these kind of weird twists of when you were a tiny little building someplace that was really dry all the time, and everybody around you had something lit going on. They had, in a lot of cases, they had the big rain barrel sitting on the front porch.
Yeah.
But it all had a dip bucket next to it so that if they caught the lawn on fire or that pile of leaves went up, or the other thing that shocked and surprised me was the number of fires started by dew.
Dew?
Just moisture.
Huh.
Just
How
moisture
does that start a fire?
Light comes through it like a magnifying glass. Bink. Starts a fire.
That's interesting.
And
that's a random.
It's utterly random, but it has so much to do with the hose in the fact that the minute we had the ability to pump and move water effectively, it really changed how building codes were looked at.
Sure.
Because then we get into plumbing, and that's a whole. That's a whole different rabbit hole. That's amazingly fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I would say the garden hose, the hose in general, is a linchpin invention that is, once again, very easy to overlook, but we never overlook the obvious here on.
Unless one has a hole in it, in which case you know about it real fast.
Absolutely. So, hey, Allan, I want to shift gears. So, hats off to the garden hose and John van der Heyden.
Van der Heyden.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, Allan, I want to shift gears a little bit. This is I want to, it's 4th of July weekend.
Right.
And I was thinking about something. And it's of course, I love America's, can-do attitude, all the things we've invented and everything like that. I began thinking about something, and Max, I don't know if you'll want to weigh in on this, but I've begun looking at America in terms of, let's say it's a patchwork quilt, right? All of us contribute we contribute our patch, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm really stretching here. Anyway, I was thinking about Betsy Ross.
Okay.
Did she? Okay. Well, I had a question actually. I know she made American flags, but did she invent the American flag?
That was a committee. She did as bid, but of course you had a lot of people that didn't know how to sew,
right?
Sitting around making suggestions. So they didn't really know what the finished product was actually going to look like.
Oh, so this was designed. Well, the reason I'm fascinated, because I always loved the American flag, but it was mostly because of there's meaning behind all of the design components.
Everything had full symbolism, and I'll throw in another weird.
Do you happen
twist.
to know what it is? Because I think I do, but I wanted to make sure, because it was mostly about the design concept and thinking things through, even in your home. You know what I mean? So. But do you know some of the concepts behind?
How much masonry lore do you want to get into this early in the morning?
Well, we got 2 minutes. So okay, what do you got, Allan? So,
well, of course, you had the number of stars and stripes.
Well, that represents the states at the time.
Exactly.
So, okay.
So what else? What you got?
Well, the red, that has to do with sacrifice, right?
Yes.
Okay. What about the white?
I'm waiting.
I'm asking you, Allan. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Go dig around in there.
Okay. Well, I thought that had to do with purity or something.
It was, because
Okay.
one of the big symbols, we had a lot of Greek symbolism going on in the country at the time, and that was being true of heart.
Okay. True of heart. Okay. And then blue, that part I'm wondering about. I guess maybe if somebody out there knows what it is.
Well, let's throw it out to let's see who somebody can text in to us and let us know.
Okay, but anyway, it was more along the lines of Betsy Ross. We always think of her with the American
Right.
flag. There's people we think about when it comes to that, and I'm challenging people. What would your patch look like out there in your day-to-day life, and when you're long gone? What will your patch reflect? I hate to think what my patch looks like, Alan. I mean, we have all this freedom and all this opportunity, and here's what I came up with.
There would be a ladder somewhere in your symbol, somewhere your legend.
But anyway, it's happy 4th of July, everybody. But Alan, let's get this out of the way, because later we're going to be celebrating some really great stuff. But when we come back, it's 30 years of stupid, 2 floods, and a flamed out compressor.
Yes.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
This is what the holidays are all about. 3 buddies sitting around chewing gum, huh?
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Absolutely, Alan. That's what I'm doing when I get out of here. I'm going to go sit around with you guys and chew gum. So, okay. And welcome back to, that was pretty random, Max. Good job. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, and our buddy Max over there behind the glass.
Chewing gum.
You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we encourage you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, give us a like, check out all the action over there. And, weigh in like people have been weighing in. They've been texting in, Alan. I clumsily tried to put together I'm a big fan of Betsy Ross, like
Yes.
everybody else is.
Yes.
I guess there's debate whether she invented the flag, or I guess it sounds like it was more of a committee type design. And everybody, which I like that idea anyway. People got together, they weighed in, they wanted there to be some deeper meaning.
There were a variety of different flags that were suggested.
Right.
And
So the question we posed before the break was, we were talking about the meaning of red, the meaning of white, what the stars represented, and we were both sort of stumped as to what the blue represented. But we've got confirmation, or at least we've got people weighing in. What'd they say, Alan?
Well, of course, everybody that's weighed in has been correct. All they had to do was look
Pull
up
Google. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody Googled real fast.
Okay.
Or they went to our Facebook page at Tool Talk Radio.
Yeah.
And yes, red symbolized the hardiness and valor.
Okay.
White symbolized the purity and innocence. And blue was all about vigilance, perseverance, and justice.
Okay. Awesome. Do we got to give any credit to somebody? I mean, I want who out there deserves the credit?
I
on
got
this?
enough of them fast enough. We're going to say it's about a 20-way tie.
Okay.
So-
well, thank you for weighing in out there. So
Yeah, they jumped on it really fast.
Awesome.
So, again, kind of about what was going on. Yeah, everybody kind of had a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
And and if you've ever looked at the alternatives that could have been the American flag,
Right.
there was some great ones.
I'm
There
sure.
was even
Sure,
one
there
with a
was lot of great
snake on
design.
it that said, "Don't tread on me."
Well, we've seen that one.
Right. But,
Yeah.
there was all kinds of other suggestions. But
I'm glad we don't have a serpent on our flag. I feel like
Eh.
that's I don't know. Okay. I don't know.
Being somewhat of a herpetological
You'd like it, but-
fan, I'm all right with it.
Well, you are a Slytherin, so
I am Slytherin. It is
Right.
okay.
Okay.
But the biggest thing is what Betsy did was bring to life everybody's suggestion. It's kind of like painting a wall.
Right.
You don't know what that color really looks like until you get it on the wall.
Well,
The card can say so much, you can know so much, but until you see it on the wall, you just don't know. And when they saw the final version, thank you, Miss Ross, everybody kind of went, oh, the one on the right. Let's go with that one.
honestly, the process does not sound unlike the way you remodel a kitchen or something like that. The way, you get together various experts, you find out what the important features are that need to be done, and then the craftsman, Betsy Ross, comes in and executes the plan.
And kind of goes, all right, well, these are some great ideas, but this is how it really works.
Right.
And then when you get done, Well, there was a ta-da moment, and everybody went, and the winner is right here.
Absolutely. So, all right. Well, Allan, that's I love that story, and thanks everybody for weighing in so quickly. Because we looked like we were twisting out in the breeze, not knowing what we were talking about. But anyway, hey, Allan. Speaking of twisting in the breeze, let's get this out of the way. Because later in the show, we're going to deal with the heights of human achievement. But today, at the moment, we're going to deal with...
My week was not the height of human achievement.
Okay.
Like a loose nail.
1 out of 25 ain't bad.
You don't have any code violations, do you?
Nope. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
What do you think of the house that Love built? Oh, shoot.
Allan, I got to ask you something before you give us your 30 years of stupid here. But you know what I've noticed, and maybe you've experienced this as well. Ever since you and I started this whole segment, 30 years of stupid, a couple of years ago or whatever, whenever I encounter something on the job site that's really irritating or really something like this, at first I'm initially annoyed, and then I'm like, hey, actually, this is going to play out pretty well on the show.
Great material.
So it's actually helping me to deal with that. Do you get that same type of thing? Okay.
That is why I came up with the phrase.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't care whatever you guys think. I just like playing the music.
Yeah, well,
that's
there
all
we
Max
go.
cares
There
about.
we go.
He's got his finger over those hot keys.
I just care about pushing buttons. That's my entire patriotic duty.
There you go. All right. Well, Allan, do tell, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to flood number 1. Let's start with flood number 1.
Wait, so we've got these numbered. Okay,
Oh, yeah. Flood number 1.
All right.
Flood number 1 is a shower remodel.
Okay.
And
Hang on. Sorry, I interrupt. Are you talking a walk-in shower or a tub with a shower? There's a big difference there.
A walk-in tub remodel all the way down to... this was about a 1975 to 77 build.
Yeah, not my favorite era, but go ahead. Yeah.
As I love to point out, Wonderboard hadn't been invented yet.
Yeah.
We did not have concrete construction in bathrooms.
No.
We had sheetrock we tried to keep dry. And I'm going to say we tried badly to keep dry.
I remember people carpeting their bathroom in those days over wood.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're basically putting a sponge there when you step out. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we were just trying to make it squishy.
Yeah, okay.
So here we go. Bless their hearts. They're trying to get this thing done. They get the sheetrock. They get the tile off the wall. Yeah. And much to their horror, they take the hammer. They got the moving pad underneath to catch everything.
Right.
So, I mean, they've done everything they can do to do this right. And just bless their hearts. They whack the wall just a little bit, and like the whole piece just blam comes down. They're losing their minds because now there's this huge gaping hole in the wall.
One swing. And
it was like one tap, and they're all like, "You mean I could have leaned on this too hard any time in the last 10 years?" And I went, "Yeah, you'd have been naked in the other room."
Oh my gosh.
So
okay, so it went all the way to the studs.
Everything came off.
Yeah.
Everything just, the sheetrock was old and dry and wet and dry and wet and dry and wet and just gave out.
Yeah.
So it all came off really easily. So they got over the shock. And when I called them, I went, this just makes your demo easier.
Yeah. So you were trying to show them the bright side of things.
This is going to be easier.
That's true.
So then here's where it gets bad. Where were the shutoffs?
So you're saying there was no
shutoffs. There was no place, nowhere, no how. Had there been a leak anywhere in this system?
Are you talking about no shutoffs in the house?
Especially for a shower or bathroom.
Okay, so when you look under your bathroom sink or your kitchen sink, you'll see a valve. There's a hose going up to the faucet, and you can cut that off.
Right.
Well, I know in a shower it works different, Al, but usually they have that little trap door, like there's a closet or something on the other side of the wall where you reach in and you can twist it and shut it off. So there's none of that.
And when we
just
looked
a
under the
straight water
sink,
line.
and when we looked under the sink, this is where it's like, oh, I'm glad you're remodeling the bathroom anyway.
Yeah.
Because
the snowball effect.
They had, in the process of removing everything, of course, they nicked something.
Right.
And they were going to replace the valve anyway. And much to their horror, the valve was leaking.
Oh, boy.
So, and it had probably been leaking for a while, just a tiny little drop of water here and there, but it's more than enough to,
Is
make
this
a
the
nice
first
soft
floor
wall.
or the second floor?
First floor, thank
Okay,
goodness.
good. Yeah.
because second floor, that's when
There
it
would
just
have been
really
a giant
gets
hole
ugly.
in the ceiling. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, bless their little hearts. I mean, it just was, you mean the wall falls off that easy to, what do you mean we can turn the water off? There's just pipes here. You're like, oh, okay. And then, so we finally get all this lined out.
I'm making a mental note of all my complaints here, but go ahead, Allan. So,
And, so we kind of get it, I go back over, we get a piece of paper, I get the pen, we draw it out, and we go, okay, since we got to turn off the water to everything anyway, because otherwise we're going to keep dripping and flooding, all this stuff in here. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to add shutoffs here,
Right.
and here, and here, and here. We're going to put a little box in your wall so that you can get to these shutoffs in the event something breaks.
Right. Well, and then if you're working on it, you don't have to shut all the water off in the whole house, or you don't have
Well,
to,
especially if you got to change out, I don't know, the faucet.
right.
Those things don't last forever either.
Yeah, and folks, if you're ever doing a remodel like this, I highly recommend a main shutoff. That there's ways to do it where you can cut off the whole bathroom, or at least at the very least something where you have easy access to it. So usually under the bathroom sink is kind of the go-to
that was
place.
number
So-
one.
Okay, so that was your first flood of the week.
That was
okay.
number one.
Yeah.
Number two. Here we go. Again, this is going to be in a commercial building, and this is why you really need a map in your building of where the shutoffs are.
I firmly believe it's just like and I've said this before, Allan. It's just like every kid and every child in the home needs to know where the fire extinguisher is, and they need to know how to shut the water off, because that is a big deal.
I'd say in my household, too, you need to know how to shut off the toilets.
Yeah. Max has had his toilet issues in his home too, but it's true. It's just as big of an emergency if it suddenly bursts the pipe. Man, look at the damage it can do.
And I get the call, and I love the words that come. It's not Allan, hi, how are you? It's water is spraying everywhere.
Yeah.
You're
Forget
just
the pleasantries. It's just, you get all those calls, I have to admit.
Oh, my gosh. So we get there, and now the game is on. Where is the shutoff?
And that's all. And you don't want to be scrambling to figure that out, because every second there's water just flooding in
This is a 40,000 square foot building.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
man.
all right. Because I'm used to older buildings, and I'm used to buildings in the 70s, and for some reason, I don't know why, but in the Memphis area, they loved to hide the shutoffs.
Oh, yeah.
If they could shove it in a back corner
Right.
and make it as inconvenient as humanly possible.
Sure.
Of this particular shutoff happened to be in, honestly, a back mechanical room on the far side of everything, in a corner where you honestly had to almost slide in to get hold of the wheel to get the water turned off.
Yeah.
So we get the water turned off, and of course the day is saved. But again, it's kind of like here comes Allan with the pen and the pad. Okay, here's where we're gonna add some shutoffs.
Yeah, but Al, I'm sorry, but here my big beef with this is that, once again, everybody should know how to shut the water off. They shouldn't have to call you to turn a valve.
Yeah.
So I feel like that gets overlooked. We get all these safety, if there's an earthquake, if there's a fire, if there's a hurricane, whatever, but they always seem to overlook, and water just, man, it can do some damage.
Well, water is constantly pervasive.
And
as
it's
you and
such
I
a
have said
simple thing
million
to do.
times.
Just turn it off. So
If you can.
yeah.
That makes me think of the idea of, like, rather than giving a man a fish, teaching a man to fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the biggest thing is, especially if you're renting a building,
right.
I don't care if it's a storage unit, of doghouse, if you're renting a house, of really, where's the water shut off? And the other thing is what device do you need to shut off the water.
Yeah, because once the water's off, you can deal with the crisis. But
Whatever the crisis
every
is,
second that water is pouring out,
Right.
is
You got
creating
water
new
going everywhere.
problems. So, yeah.
So, I throw in for a homeowner, if you do not have a water key or you don't know what a water key is, go to your big box store. They're $19.99. Get a water key, hang it up someplace obvious, and make sure everybody in the house knows where the fitting is.
The other part of that, Allan, is because, the water meter is out in front of the house. Most people, I believe it's pretty easy to access. It's right by the street. However, I've seen situations where people might let the grass grow over it, or they might let it get kind of covered up. You should always have that thing ready to roll in case you got to just reach up, lift the lid, and turn it off. But
snatch that baby off out of there, get that water key down there, and shut that water off.
And Allan, haven't we talked in the past about these? I always talked about that invention of mine where you put different sensors and different cutoff. Like they would sense that there's a leak and immediately cut the water off, like you would attach it to your pipes or something. But then you told me there's a variation of that now, right? Like you could have an app on your phone and you go, oh, I'm at work and suddenly there's a leak. You push the button and it cuts the water off. So it's like,
well, as a side effect of both our space program and the new interest in house batteries and stuff like that, smart home systems, people are now getting water flow sensors installed. Or you're getting dampness sensors installed.
Yeah.
So you've got an area, let's say, at the bottom of your hot water tank.
Yeah.
Well, if it fills up with water, the little sensor is triggered and it turns off. It activates the little switch that turns off the water, so it keeps you from continuing to flood until somebody finds it.
Right.
Now, it's annoying you get home and you don't have water. But the good news is you don't have a huge hole in your wall.
No.
And you didn't flood out your whole house.
Allan, far be it for me to beat any subject into the ground, but you just reminded me, this is, part of this is, part of the 30 years of stupid is to help people avoid problems. So then you're not being, we're not talking about you on the show. However, I have to confess to something that I think a lot of people are guilty of, and I just want to tell them, the benefits if you address this. So, Allan, I had a leak. It was this year. I'm sorry. I get busy and I get whatever, and I just don't do. So my bathtub was leaking. It was dripping into the tub, whatever,
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I got to fix this weekend, because really weekends are about the only time I work on my house. And honestly, it's a 20-minute repair. I don't know why I did this. I went about, I want to say about 3 months before I actually fixed the thing. Well, what I noticed was as soon as I fixed it, the results on my MLGW bill, my water bill,
stunning.
I think I was wasting about $50 or $60 a month just on this water drip. When I calculated, and I'm like, that seems like a lot, but then again, if it's continually running, that does add up. So if you've got a water leak, you're just basically, just imagine money going down the drain, literally, because that's what it's doing.
You are just throwing money out a window.
Yeah.
Yes.
So leaks are nothing to play games with, and they're just a hassle. Just fix them.
And these two instances were just shining examples. Of course, right here in the middle of summer, when generally we don't get a lot of broken pipes.
Right.
This is not, flood season is generally when it's freezing cold and a pipe gets too cold and it bursts and it causes all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
But right now is kind of the season when people are remodeling, cleaning up the house, doing a lot of things around the house. And now is a great time, while it's not an emergency, to, again, and I just pound and pound and pound on the fact, everybody needs a water key and everybody needs to know where it is.
And like we said, your kids need to know how to do this and everything.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
All right. Well, I think we've made our point, Allan. So, but boy, water's a big theme today, actually.
Water has been a big theme. It was a big theme all day yesterday, I promise you.
Well, and don't worry, folks, because we're going to get high tech in the next hour of the show, too. But, Allan, I guess water sort of plays a role in with Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration.
Oh, yes,
his game is to get water out of your house by air conditioning removes the humidity from your home. It's kind of a stretch, but whatever. It's like
it's the amount of water an air conditioner makes is stunning.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to do better with my transitions here, Alan. So, but basically, if you have any HVAC needs, if you've got anything to do with not only conditioning the air but cleaning the air, we love the notion of the Remy Halo system because not only does it blow out clean air, it blows out air that cleans, which that'll hurt your brain. But it's
wonderful.
It's funny to think of air working and doing something, but it blows out these cleaning particulates because of the UV bulb that's inside this
UVC
system, and it's all controlled if you want with your smart home system. One of the great things these days, if everybody's off at work during the day, why keep your air conditioner, at 72 degrees? Bump it up, and then you have a smart setting where you can either do it through your phone or you just have it set where, an hour before you're going to come home, you cool it off. You do, I think Jake was talking about that the other day on his show. Same thing. It makes a huge difference in your bills. I really think it's just the great thing about Brown Refrigeration is they want you to spend the least amount of money possible. They want you to have the most efficient system, the greatest results, and they're just good people. And they're a solid company. So like we say, you call them 5 or 6 years from now because you have a question or an issue or it's time for an upgrade. Well, they're there. They
are indeed.
Yeah, they're just good people, and they're a lot of fun. And if you're really lucky, when you call in, you get to talk to Mrs. Brown because she's a riot. She's a lot of fun. But call them directly. You can get in touch with them at 901-362-1881, or you can go to their website, brownref.com, and you'll probably see their trucks around town if you live here in the Mid-South. So, just good, solid people. And actually, I guess Larry's about overdue for a visit to Tool Talk. We were on the road a lot, Alan, so it kind of, but he'll be in the studio in the near future. So, hey, Alan, I wanted to throw something out there. We haven't done a lot of suggested viewing in a while, but one of the shows I've brought up, I don't know if you watched the show or not, Alan, but Rust Valley Restorers finally came out with season 4. Don't shake your head at me, Max. So there is a reason. Okay, so Rust Valley Restorers, if you don't know what it is, I won't give you any spoilers, too many spoilers, but up in British Columbia. Wait, is it British Columbia? It's in Canada.
It's Canadian.
Okay,
we'll
these are
leave
a bunch
it as
of,
they're Canadians.
A bunch of Canadian guys.
Who cares about Canadians?
Well, somehow this place is really big with these guys that are into classic cars and everything. It's sort of a culture out there. Everybody's got 20 cars in their backyard that are half restored or whatever, and then they've got the ones that are restored, and everybody's tooling around in a 1960s muscle car or whatever. But what's fascinating about Rust Valley Restorers is it's on Netflix. Season 4, I think, is on Roku, Motor. I don't know. It's a History Channel thing.
Right.
You actually learn quite a bit. The reason I'm recommending it, however, even though it's a car show, is it showcases the emotional side of craftsmanship, if that makes sense. It shows you oh my gosh, I can't find this part, or this car really means a lot to somebody because there's a story behind it. Like my Aunt Mabel gave me the whatever, and there's a story. It's very it shows the emotional satisfaction when you have something go well. It translates really well to people that are contractors or anybody that's worked in home improvement or anybody that's just had to build something. It's a great show. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I think it's basically a PG show, Yeah.
Would you mind if I recommended a little bit of viewing that's a little less, let's just call it that?
Okay.
I would also recommend The Repair Shop when it comes to shows the emotional aspect of that, because it's a positive thing. It's it shows the sentimentality, but it also shows the fine craftsmanship that goes behind not only the things like chairs, but everything from the proficiency in clock working, which is a very rare and kind of archaic, you might call it, skill to have these days.
Okay, I'll give you that. The Repair Shop is the civilized man's show. No,
if you want to see people emotional, let them fix the teddy bear.
Yeah, but it is good to watch these shows, and I would say that one too. It deals with the emotions of craftsmanship, and
I love them.
So check it out. Those things are good for your soul, honestly. Well, I hope this first hour has been good for your soul. I don't know what.
Probably not.
Probably not. Anyway, you've been listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar, Memphis. I can't wait for hour 2, Alan. We're going to talk all about the Death Star in Las Vegas, Nevada.
It's coming. Here we go.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out all the action over there. And thank you to the people that have been weighing in and texting us this morning, Allan, educating us. And we'd like to hear more. I mean, Allan, as we mentioned at the first hour of the show, this is the 1-year anniversary of us being over here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar, and it's actually the 1-year anniversary of the station itself.
Yes.
So, we kicked it off. I don't know who made that executive decision, but he
was a wise and brilliant man.
Yeah, good. Big salute to Morgan Bohannon, the general manager over here, and our program director, Ditch. Ditch is just a good dude. We've known Ditch many years, and I'm proud of what he's doing. He's still humble. He's just like the most chilled guy, but I love what he's done with News Talk 98.9 The Roar. Well done, sir. And and I got to admit, Allan, I'm especially fond of the Saturday programming. Let's face it, that's what we're all about. So, we would love to, we would love to hear from you. So if you've got any thoughts, about our show, I don't know, do we want to open the lines for that?
No, please do.
Like I said, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. You can even send pictures. Can they send video, Max, or is it just pictures? I don't know. They can.
I feel like it's just pictures, but I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, tasteful and all that. And, of course, if you're out celebrating the 4th of July this weekend, if you've got any unique holiday traditions, that would be kind of fun to hear about because everybody's got their own thing. And I've always said this is my favorite holiday of the year. I just, I'm very patriotic and I yield to no one in my love for America. So, well, Allan, in a second, we've got I don't want to say we've got something coming up. We don't have a confession this week, although I sort of confessed to something.
We had
myself.
a confession.
It was
a good confession.
How is it that I'm making these confessions on the air? About my
water
usage.
Better.
But I
you
do
feel better.
But we do have something coming up with great moments in building history. But before we get to that, because I feel like this is going to be a big segment, I want to talk about our buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling. It's a little out of order. The reason is I already know this discussion is going to get out of hand.
Oh, yeah.
And we're never going to get to. But Jay Hill, now I wonder what he's doing this weekend. Surely he's taking a little time off for the.
I hope he's sleeping because the damage that's going to happen by the end of the weekend is going to have him booked till September.
Okay, so are we really going to get that heavy weather coming in?
If the weather comes rolling in again and we start getting a few storms, roofs are going to take a beating.
Okay,
because it's been really dry. Well, one thing I've noticed, a lot of the trees back from the ice storm still got a lot of widowmakers hanging in them.
They do. We had limbs fall,
they're still ready to go. So I'm really still expecting to see some roof damage on the next big storm.
Absolutely. So if you've got any roofing issues, and the great thing, roofing and remodeling issues, the great thing is in both situations, sometimes that work is covered by your homeowner's insurance. And what's fascinating about Jay is that in addition to being a GAF master installer and 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau and Good Housekeeping and just being an all-around interesting and dynamic personality, he's also a former insurance agent, which means that because we have seen this, Allan, and you get have you ever found this? You ask somebody a question and you ask 50 different people a question and you get 50 different answers because nobody really knows. And if
you're lucky,
that especially happens when you're dealing with homeowners insurance and especially with your roof.
Oh, yeah.
You need somebody that has a clear understanding of this. Well, Jay Hill's a former insurance agent. This is sort of his specialty, which is a great service because sometimes if you are in a situation where you need to have your roof replaced, like you, me, and our buddy Brandon Olmstead, we've had our roof replaced with Jay Hill.
We have.
And we all dealt with our homeowners insurance. It's a very empowering feeling to suddenly find out, wow, I've got a path out of this where I may not be spending, an arm and a leg, I can actually pay my homeowner's deductible. And Jay's the one that can help you navigate that. And regardless, his consultation is free. So there's really no reason to not call Jay Hill. And especially he's got an interesting approach with his remodeling projects. And a lot of people are changing the way they use their home. And they're converting like that old playroom into a home office, or we're using our living space differently, which we're all about. We think that's great. So Jay Hill can help you with all of that. So get in touch with Jay. You can call him directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right, Allan, I've been eagerly anticipating this discussion. If you folks later in the show, after the show's over, after we've had the discussion, we strongly encourage you to go to our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the video we posted all about the $1.8 billion stadium that was built. But Allan and Max, it's time for great moments in building history. This is appropriate. So, all right, Allan, I went down a rabbit hole, and it's funny. I'm convinced that YouTube and your Roku TV monitors you. They monitor the things you talk about, probably even the things you think about, and then they put up these suggested videos. I promise you, I was not looking for this, but a video popped up, and it said. It was something along the lines of, check out this $1.8 billion football stadium.
You weren't looking for it. It was looking for you.
Exactly.
It might have been. It might have been in this case.
And I'll be honest, I've been more following football lately. Baseball in the last few years. That's kind of been my thing. I'll be honest, the Chicago Bears, they had their heyday back when I was a teenager but anyway.
And you just haven't gotten over it.
I enjoy baseball better anyway, but I do like football, and it's fun. The reason this struck me, Allan, I was watching it. So it's called Allegiant Stadium. It's the home of the Las Vegas Raiders. They used to be formerly the Oakland Raiders, formerly the Los Angeles Raiders. They moved around. Their team has a very distinctive spirit and a very passionate fan base. I think we can agree on that.
As most teams do, they have their diehards.
Right. The reason this video fascinated me, Allan, is because, for one thing, it's really beautiful to look at. It's called the Death Star.
Right.
The aesthetic, if you don't know, for the Raiders is basically their color scheme is black and white and silver. Right. And so when they were designing this thing, they started to put it together, and they're like, this thing kind of looks like the Death Star from Star Wars, which is not a bad aesthetic to go to. It's in Las Vegas. It's right off the Strip, so there's all these iconic constructions. Right. I'm not a big gambler either. I learned pretty early on. I used to go to Vegas all the time, Allan, when I was about 23 or 24. I learned within about a year that it's a waste of money, and it's a waste of my money. I couldn't. I could probably go these days and not gamble because I don't care about gambling anymore. But back in the day,
Well, for every system, there is somebody out there willing to let you prove how well it doesn't work.
Right. Well, what fascinated me about this video, though, Allan, is how many things related to things you and I have talked about on the show, and that's why we're going to unpack this a little bit. So, Allegiant Stadium, for one thing, it clearly reflects the spirit of the team. Like, you go there and you're like, okay, this is Raider Stadium. It looks like it's got the color scheme throughout is beautiful, and there's all sorts of design choices that I think are fascinating. And so I guess we're going to unpack it, Allan, because you found this equally interesting, right?
Yes. Well, let's talk about right out of the gate. This is in Vegas.
There you go. So, it's 100 and something degrees, and you're trying to play football.
You and I have discussed everything old is new again.
Yeah.
Air conditioning was one of the worst design choices anybody in business could have ever made.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
Larry Brown's going to have something to say about that,
Well,
Allan.
I didn't say air conditioning was a bad idea. Air conditioning is an amazingly great idea.
Okay.
But air conditioning as part of your design is a terrible idea.
In other words, relying solely on, you got 65,000 people.
Well, in Memphis, Tennessee, we have torn down recently a number of buildings that just horrifically did not ever need to be built because the designer of the building was in love with the idea of modern plumbing, modern electricity, and modern air conditioning. which meant the buildings had terrible ergonomics, awful lighting, terrible construction, and even worse airflow capability.
Okay.
So at the moment anything didn't work,
Yeah.
so that one unit, that one air conditioning unit for the first floor goes out, and eventually they're going to go out. Now suddenly the entire building is this massive sweat lodge, and everybody in it, you have to almost abandon the building because air doesn't move.
Allan, I want to clarify one thing about what you're saying, though, because I lived in a desert climate, and it's if you haven't lived there, you look at the pictures and you're like, oh my gosh, it's hot, it's whatever. Well, it is hot during the summer. However, they play football in the fall, in the winter. There's times where the desert can be. It could be. I remember this distinctly living in Arizona. It would be 65 in the daytime, and then as the sun goes down, it could drop to like 30 degrees. It'll do that in the course of an hour or two. The desert, because there's nothing holding the heat, so the desert changes a lot. So you might actually get to where you might even have to put the heat on in this place, believe it or not.
Yes.
But you also want to take advantage of the time because it's nice dry air. You might want to open the windows. So that's
the whole point, is that air has to move.
Right. So
and a lot of what we were looking at, I mean, the first thing that struck me when I looked at this construction and I looked at some of the notes about it was one of the very first things they were very cognizant of was the fact we're building a huge building that needs to have a lot of people in it, and it is in the middle of the desert.
Right. Yeah.
Air flows beautifully through this place. The hallways are designed in such a way to keep air functioning.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. So, Allan, apparently the architect. Okay, what's beautiful about this, and I went down a deep dive and I looked at all the other designs of other modern stadiums. Like there's a stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and there's different, Jerry World over in Dallas and stuff. I still think this, in terms of what its job is to be the home of the Las Vegas Raiders. So it reflects that it needs to be a piece of art. It needs to be a place that's designed for the fan experience. For example, this only seats 65,000 people, which sounds like, well, that still sounds like a lot. Compared to stadiums today, that's not a lot. A lot of these are holding 80,000 plus.
It's still a fair-sized city.
But they do that because for one thing, the fan experience is better. But when you talked about airflow, what was fascinating to me about that was the designer of this stadium, the design was inspired by a sports car.
Yes.
So you imagine you're sitting in a sports car, and then you expand that out to a design that's holds 65,000 people, which comes down to, okay, for example, it's got a transparent roof that can be retracted. You can totally open it like a sunroof. It lets if you want to, if the weather cooperates, they have these 4 massive sliding glass doors, just like a sliding window. The seats are similarly, the ergonomics of the seat are that you sit in the stands are similar to a sports car. It's fascinating to me to have that idea that you just basically you're sitting in a sports car watching a football game.
Well, you picture a night game.
Yeah.
Picture a night game, and tonight's low is going to be 50 degrees.
Right.
So it could be 110 during the day. Deserts have
There's a big swing.
20 to 30 to 40 degree temperature swings in a 24-hour period of time. So it might be 105 now, but at 9 o'clock tonight, it's going to be 50 degrees.
And Allan, in the desert,
imagine cracking open that roof and having that wonderful, dry, cold, crisp air.
Yeah, blowing through. And Allan, the other thing about that is there's an interesting view to be seen. They didn't want to just have it where they basically connect the outdoors and the indoors. So when you open it, you're looking out at the Las Vegas Strip. But the other thing is, in a desert climate with low humidity, I remember this distinctly. It could be 80 or 85 degrees, and you might open the windows then because the breeze, it's dry, it's still comfortable. You can still, enjoy it. So they open it up quite a bit.
So I know, ladies and gentlemen, y'all are like, all right, you guys are going on and on and on about this, but when you think about it, your air, if you lose your air conditioning in a modern house,
right?
And I hate to pick on mid-centuries, but When we were utterly in love with just the idea of air conditioning, this is the only way you're going to get your air. They made terrible, terrible buildings. Because there is, Joe, as you said, just this wonderful idea that you can open a window, open a screen
saves
door.
The money. It makes the building more efficient.
Beautiful breeze that comes through.
Right.
And so you're not trapped. And, one little horrible fact is the average home is far more polluted on the inside than the outside world.
Right. Well, and there's just something about being at a sporting event where you kind of want to, if it's an outdoor event, you want to feel like you're outside.
You want some air.
Right.
You want to feel it and see it and enjoy it.
Okay. And there's there's quite a number of other interesting things. What I wanted to
that's just air. We didn't even got to a lot.
Okay.
Let's talk about lighting and effects.
Well, there's light. Yeah. Everything is like I said, the color scheme, the way they have the lights, and the fact that they don't, I guess the scoreboard could be considered part of the lighting. It gives off a lot of light. What I like about their scoreboard design, we've seen these giant ones. Now there's this almost who could make the biggest scoreboard. We've seen these oval scoreboards that are over, I think they have one in Dallas and some of the others where it's a 360-degree scoreboard. It's a very impressive piece of technology. However, I think personally it's a little distracting. The way they have the scoreboard set up here, there's plenty of them, but if there's not a play going on or whatever, they can actually turn it off and make it transparent. Like you can actually see. It's a really interesting. It continues that open feel of that. But I wanted to talk about the turf itself because, Alan, if you've got an indoor stadium, a lot of football players prefer to play on grass. That's just sort of the reality. So how do you grow grass?
Have you ever been tackled on AstroTurf?
Yeah, and people can twist their ankles.
That stuff burns you.
Now, I forgot to mention, the University of Nevada also uses this field. Well, they prefer to play on artificial turf.
Right.
The Raiders prefer to play on grass. Well, how the heck do you accomplish both? Well, this is the part that I think fascinated you. I've never seen this. This is one of the most interesting landscaping features I've ever seen.
One of the old rodeo tricks, sliding floors.
Yeah, literally. This thing,
honestly,
if you look at a panoramic view of Allegiant Stadium, you will see there's a field outside. You're looking at a giant glass field, and you're like, gosh, that's the size of a football field. Well, it is the football field.
It is.
They retract this thing. It's about 20 feet thick. It's on a real complex series of rollers. It weighs a ton. It's got an irrigation system. So when they're not playing, they have grass outside getting sun, and then when it's game time, they roll it in. I've never seen anything like that.
It is amazing. Well, it's kind of like of the stadiums. You got to go back to like the Houston Astrodome or something, where they would have like the ice skating rink, and then they would just a real floor would come out from under the bleachers and would cover the ice skating rink.
Right.
So the ice skating rink was always down there.
Right.
But while your basketball game was going on, you had a solid floor above it.
Yeah, I remember that because basketball teams would share stadiums with hockey, because it's about the same size. Yeah, that's an easy transfer there. But rolling grass,
that's living yard.
Well,
20
the other
feet
thing is
thick. This is just amazing engineering.
It's pretty cool looking too. And then the other part of that is it allows. So suppose you're doing the monster truck rally inside this stadium, you don't want to cover grass and tear that up and everything. So it keeps it pristine. The grounds crew must love this because they're very particular about every blade of grass. But I've never seen anything like that. A retractable field. I wonder if we do our own variation of that with plants that my wife's got plants that she puts outside in the sun sometimes and then brings it back into the house. I wonder if we would ever get to retractable landscaping features in and out of our home. I mean, that's interesting.
Actually, I've been in a couple.
I knew I'd trigger
Max.
It's like
sunrooms.
It's like low hanging fruit. I knew.
Yeah, I know. He's just baiting me.
Yeah.
I need to have a trigger sound effect where it's like.
Okay. What is it?
Trigger.
So tell us about it.
Well, I saw think about your old Wendy's design. They actually had sunrooms built onto the side of them, and the sunroom, quote unquote, and the other thing that's making a comeback in some areas is the porch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you've got a porch and a deck, you have the ability to have someplace to hide a slide-out garden
Okay.
or slide-in garden.
Because I'm thinking about that. Just I like the connection of bringing the outdoors in. I like where it's not just, I like the modular nature, you could say, and incorporating that into landscaping is sort of fascinating.
Oh,
me.
yes.
So, but Allan, there's more to unpack with this, and we, the reason, like we said, that we're bringing this up is because even though we're talking about a football stadium, there's definite applications for your home, and we're gonna weigh in on a few more of those when we come back. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. We'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Do you know what happens to a butter-based frosting after 6 decades in a poorly ventilated English basement?
I guess I hadn't.
Well, I have a feeling what you are about to go through is punishment enough.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Allan, you're one of the few people I know that does know exactly what happens to a butter-based frosting after 6 decades in a poorly ventilated English basement.
And I agree with him.
Okay. Yeah, he's right about that. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, give us a like, check out all the action. And Allan's been pretty good about posting our past shows up there. So it's sort of a one-stop shop. You can go there for links to our past shows over on Spotify and YouTube and all that good stuff. It's a good place to interact. We've had a few interactions this morning. Somebody was wanting to find out information about Allan's cooking.
Yes, I am the food dude on Thursday mornings.
Yeah, so pretty cool. And Max, you said we got a caller on the line. We're going to get to him in just a moment. So, hey, Allan. So, for great moments in building history, it's sort of spilled over to the to another segment, partly because this is a topic that covers. This is I should say an object that covers pretty much stuff you and I have been talking about for years. Allegiant Stadium, home of the Las Vegas Raiders, it's an architectural marvel. We're here to showcase I'm not a Raiders fan. I have nothing against the Raiders. I'm just mostly, for what its job is to be the home of the Las Vegas Raiders, which it totally captures the spirit of it. The color schemes, everything. And then it's in a desert. We've talked about the way they've got to have a grass field, which is retractable grass. They have all sorts of. It was designed to give you the feel of being in a sports car. We talked about it's all designed for the fan experience. Shortly, we're going to talk about it has the world's largest 3D printed object in the world. Which you and I are always talking about the 3D printer and the role that's going to play in the future. But apparently, one of our callers, Robert, wanted to weigh in. I guess he was interested in this topic. So, Robert, how's it going, my friend?
Oh, it's going great. How are you guys?
Real good, man. Thanks for checking in. So you wanted to talk about this, right?
Yeah. My comment was that everybody thinks stuff like this is brand new concepts, and if you think back, It's a Wonderful Life, the movie, had a retractable gym floor over a swimming pool.
That's a very good point. That was pretty state of the art, wasn't it, back then? It rolled pretty well. Everybody fell in, but yeah.
Well, you also got to think back to there was a kitschy trend for a little while for rotating restaurants.
Oh, right. Yeah. Didn't we have one over?
We even had one in Memphis and that was and trust me, that was not a brand new idea. That restaurant quit rotating 30, 40 years ago.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So you get into a lot of fascinating engineering.
Yeah. Go ahead, Robert. What were you saying?
They have a rotating restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia, but they also have one in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
At the top of the spire.
The top of the Seattle Space Needle is rotating, right? Isn't that? So, yeah. So how do you feel about this stuff, Robert? Because I think it's just a great way to maximize the space and to make the space interesting.
Yeah, I do too. But I just like the fact that we've got people in this world that are smart enough to make stuff like that work.
Yeah, no
You know,
kidding.
it's amazing to see some of the stuff that has come up in the past few years.
It is, and
You know,
it's yeah.
Well, I'm
you
really
think
going to blow
back
your
to things-
mind. I'm going to bring up, remember, the rotating and sliding and changing floors and props goes all the way back to the Roman Colosseum,
Oh, that's a good point.
where they even had ship battles in the middle of the Colosseum.
They flooded that place,
Yes.
didn't they? How did they do? Okay, that's its own salute. So, and they had
So
didn't they have a
everything old
canvas
is
roof
new
cover
again.
they could put over in the sun? So,
Yep.
yeah, that's what I like that, Robert. Where it's marrying the old and the new. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I also wonder where these guys on the James Bond movies came up with their ideas.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Because they had a lot of weird stuff in those movies.
Oh yeah, yep. No, but it is interesting, and it's always fun to see how it's always fun to see something like, for example, Allan, we've seen things on Star Trek that are they're on the 80s, and then 20 years later, it's actually a real invention. Like
It's an actual product. Yeah.
The poor Spock and Kirk, their communicator was nothing compared to the smartphone we carry around with us. So
Pretty close. Yeah.
Anyway, hey Robert, man, thanks for getting in touch. We hope you'll call back often, and thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio.
Thank you, guys. I hope you have a great day and a great weekend.
Absolutely. Happy 4th of July, my friend. So, he's right, Allan. I didn't think about that part of it. But yeah, I now I'm going to probably have to do a deep dive. When did we start getting into this? Because like you said, basketball courts and hockey courts they've had it where they literally just lay the basketball court right over the ice and things like that. So,
but we can go all the way back to the Colosseum where they had retractable floors.
Right. Absolutely.
And they change out the stage, change out the stadium, change out how it was laid out.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we invite you to go to our Facebook page and check out the link that we posted there. The video is very well done. It's about a 10-minute video. It's pretty comprehensive, and we'd like to know what you think, because it's sort of the future of where stadiums are going.
Right.
I mean, the experience, I have to say, they built this with the fans in mind, and the experience just seems like it's really really working for them. So.
Yeah. When you go to Facebook, just type in Tool Talk Radio, and we'll take you straight to our page.
Okay, there's one other aspect of this, Allan, that I wanted to bring up, and this isn't specific to Allegiant Stadium, but the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I think this does translate into home improvement. So they have a completely cashless system.
Correct.
So right away, conspiracy guys like me, or just people that are like, I'm sort of big into paying with cash. You can't hack a $20 bill. That's kind of my theory and everything. My wife's had her bank card hacked So when I hear cashless, I'm like, it turns me off a little. However, they do have what's called a reverse ATM. So when you go in there, if you've got $100, you stick it in there, they give you a card, and you can use it to spend. Right. However, that's not what I was really focused on. What I was focused on was what that translates to, in my mind, is, okay, down to the penny, every transaction you could track it in terms of, we just sold 20,000 hot dogs between the hour of we just did this. To me, that part of it I actually like, because if you're running a stadium, you're feeding people, you have drinks, you have to think about parking, you have to think about all sorts of things. If you're able to track that activity, you can make it more efficient, and there's less waste. And I feel like there's a big translation between that and our home, the smart home system.
All right. Well, I will give you one of the funniest things they have to track.
Okay.
The volume of the toilets.
I knew you'd go there. You're right, though. When do people go to the bathroom?
Serious. Yeah. I'm very serious, because
plumbing is a big deal. Yeah.
60,000 people in one very small area for an extended period of time.
Right.
I remember seeing one estimate in L.A. of talking about was kind of one of the Super Bowls was during the rainy season, and they were talking about the economics of halftime.
Right.
And how they had to make sure all the water gates and everything were all open in time for halftime.
That's true.
When a million people all got up and went to the bathroom within the same 20-minute period of time.
Actually, I have to agree, Alan, even though I didn't want to talk about toilets today, but you're right, because at certain periods of the game, nobody's getting up.
Right.
When you got the 2-minute warning and everything, it's not like you're going to
Nobody's budging.
Right. So, okay. But I want to shift back a little bit. The reason is because, Alan, like I said, okay, I just talked earlier about the leak that I had in my bathtub.
Right.
Well, and it's literally watching money go down the drain.
Yes.
Well, if there was a meter tracking that, and I'm like, okay, I just wasted 50 cents in this last hour of water going down the drain, I'm probably going to be a lot quicker to react and fix that leak. Well, if everything is trackable, you're trying to run an efficient stadium, you're trying to run an efficient home. I feel like I can kind of get behind this sort of technology.
Well, you're back to the philosophy of JIT, just in time.
Tell people what that is. I know what it is, but
welcome to Japanese auto manufacturing.
Okay.
Rather than having huge back stores of stuff, what you want is your new supplies to be coming in just in time.
Otherwise, you got to have a massive warehouse.
Otherwise,
if you need those 50 transmissions, you want them coming in.
I need 5 transmissions a week every week for the rest of the year.
Okay.
And that way I know that on Friday I have 5 completed cars ready to sell.
Right.
But I don't need a warehouse with 100 transmissions in it waiting on me to get to them.
Because you have to buy 100 transmissions, and then you're out
and
money.
Pay to keep.
Right.
So what this does is it trims down the operation, and it gives you less padding.
Right.
However, it keeps you from being overly padded. So instead of wasting a lot of time, energy, and resources on storing a lot of materials that you could potentially lose, especially when it comes to like food.
Right.
Nobody wants freezer burned hot dogs a month from now.
Well, and
you want fresh, brand new, wonderful hot dogs to come in the day before the game to be prepared fresh. And you said now one of the big features here is the fact that because this is a cashless society inside this unit, you don't have a lot of money running around. And that means you're not standing in line for a lot of things anymore, right?
Well, it's funny. They have a thing that it's basically you can download an app for the day. It's these days, like when I go to a baseball game, you download the MLB app.
Right.
It gives you all sorts of things you can use while you're in the stadium. Well, they do the same thing here. They have like a beer. It's called Beer Me.
Right.
A Beer Me app. You push the button. You've just paid for the beer. They deliver it to your seat. You want a hot dog. You want nachos. You push the button. They deliver it. Well, then you're not standing in line and missing that giant interception that just happened to, turn the tides of the game. So the fan experience is definitely enhanced. Also, if you're the one that's serving the beer, you know that if you have a night game, you know that at 8:05 for some reason we're going to sell a ton of beer because historically that's
exactly
tracking and predicting.
Plan this right.
I don't really have a problem with that, So
well,
especially since it's something you can just get a temporary card, so it's not like they're tracking you.
All right. Well, provided you are given the proper options,
right,
of tracking of transactions and planning your day, anybody that has been in any form of retail business knows. You don't need too little. You don't need too much. You need just enough, and you need it now.
Right. Yeah.
Especially when you're going to take, and I mean, honestly, think about this. 65,000 people are going to be here for the next 3-4 hours.
Right.
So that's a lot of parking. That's a lot of fuel. That's a lot of exhaust. That's a lot of water, air conditioning. There's a lot of conditions to be met. And now think of 65,000 hot dogs.
Yeah.
Just
exactly.
Let's just pick one item.
Yeah.
It could be 65,000 beers, hot dogs, bags of chips, whatever. But just for some reason, can you picture, everybody's got a big 4th of July celebration coming on. And as you did bring up, I am the food dude on Thursday mornings.
Right.
So let me tell you. You think about the amount of food you've got to have ready for your 4th of July celebration. Now, angle that up to you're going to feed 65,000 of your closest friends.
Right.
For 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
The logistics of that is astounding.
Well, I feel like the more we track waste in our own homes, the more we track, like I said, wasting. If you're keeping the air conditioning at 72 when you're not even home, that's wasteful. There's just, I think this stuff, if we do it right, is going to make us more efficient. And honestly, if you're a business person, if you're a contractor, if you're in any kind of business, don't be irritating where you're spamming people and all this, but don't just turn your back on technology. This stuff really does help you be more efficient. This can help you become a better house painter. This can help you be, honestly, any type of contractor can benefit from using some of this technology.
And tracking this also can make you a surprised homeowner at what you find out really actually works.
Yeah,
because
what you're wasting money on,
there was a big fad for a while where turn off your air conditioning during the day, and then when you got home you turned it on, but somehow or another you didn't get to sleep until 3 a.m. because you were hot, wet, and miserable.
And turning it off's not the answer.
Turning it off is a terrible idea.
Right
now,
turning
adjusting
it down
the
is
temperature
right
to meet your needs is the superior idea, and actually a lot cheaper than turning it off.
And I wouldn't be surprised, Allan, if eventually, and probably there's already a variation of this, there's going to be an app where you're watching in real time what money is being spent. It's like, okay, well, in this last hour, you just used $2 worth of electricity, or you just used this much water, or whatever. Once you start being able to monitor that and track that, you can really zero in and make your home. There's a draft over here in this window that's costing me $20 a month on whatever, just stuff like that. So I'm not opposed to that as long as Big Brother doesn't come and the Terminator happens or something. But for right now, I think this stuff's going to help us as homeowners and business people.
Well, knowledge is power. And, we all know water is the enemy.
Yeah.
And what can we learn from these giant constructions?
Yeah.
Well, one, everything old is new again.
Right.
Air control is good. Lighting is key. You're a big man on the lighting.
Oh, yeah.
Lighting can take a drab average room in your house and turn it into the showplace you always wanted with no demo, with no reno, just the proper furniture in the proper place for what you really want to do in this room. And we learn these things, oddly, from a lot of these big constructions because tiny little changes in those often demonstrate knowledge we've been accumulating over the last few decades that make the house that much better.
Yep.
We used to cut a house into a million little pieces, and now the big words are open concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't want the kitchen hid in the corner. We want the kitchen kind of out in the middle, so it's almost the centerpiece of the entertainment.
Yeah, and it feels better. People are more interconnected. It's, hey, Allan, I tease this, so I think we should at least mention this because one of the things that this features is the largest 3D printed object in the world. It's an 85-foot tall. It's a memorial torch in honor of Al Davis, the former owner of the Raiders, who really kind of turned them into the iconic team they are today. I wasn't so much interested in that, folks. If you want to go ahead and research it yourself, go check out videos about this. But the notion that I believe in the future, every home is going to have a 3D printer. Am I wrong, Allan? We already have printer. Most homes have a printer. 3D printers are going to change the way. Instead of going to the store and buying that whatever it is, you're going to just go to the website, download the specs for that spatula or the whatever. You're going to go to work,
I need
3D
a new
print
spatula head. So.
You come home, and I think that's going to and you talked about how 3D printing allows less waste and more variety in terms of what you can actually make, right?
Well, and the coolest thing with 3D printing is it actually allows us to replicate natural construction.
What do you mean by that? I know what you mean, but...
All right, a natural construction is something like a tree or a piece of coral or something like that, where there are voids and things in here that do not affect the strength of the material.
Well, they add flexibility, which
they
is a
add
good
flexibility,
thing,
strength. They give you tensile capabilities that drilling a material does not give you.
Well, and you drill something, that's waste. all
you're
shreds
removing material.
instead of there's almost no waste with 3D printing.
So with a 3D printed item, you could actually go with an overlapping honeycomb design that gave you all the strength of a solid object, but you might be using 1/3 of the material.
Right. Yeah.
So now it is strong, it is durable, but it is now 2/3 lighter using 1/3 of the material. So we've conserved resources, probably saved you a little money, and now we're really starting to get to a type and level of construction we've never really had before.
No, you think of how the variety it gives you. I already know what there's people screaming at the radio right now, Alan. Well, we're going to put all the carpenters out of business. We're going to put, it never really happened.
No.
We always say that. It's not going to happen. It's just giving, okay, if I'm a carpenter and I need to build this unique 3D printed thing, well, I'm printing that off while I'm going and doing something else. And when I come back, it's done.
We're never going to replace the skill set, as a lot of people have discovered. A lot of people are now getting more retro and wanting to learn a lot of the skills that people like you and I have had to discover.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like, oh, now that we have laundry machines in our house, oh no, the laundromats are going to go out of business.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of things that I think these are good advances. So, believe me, folks, I don't want artificial intelligence to take over and turn us into the Terminator Society or Wall-E or anything. But there's some things that are good. Well, I don't have a problem with them.
I'm sorry, Wall-E has been in my mind all morning as we've talked about this stadium.
Yeah.
With the actual delivery of a luxury experience.
Yeah. Once they have a porta potty that they'll deliver to your seat, until then, you don't even have to get up to watch the game.
I'm just pointing out that Wall-E had some resonance in my head this episode.
Okay. Well, Alan, let's shift gears. By the way, if you have anything you suggest for us to talk about in great moments in building history, this could be something from 5,000 years ago. It could be something modern day. It could be something, whatever.
Yeah.
We're open to all sorts of suggestions. But, Alan, we just have a few minutes left. What's going on with darkoakmedia.com?
Well, we're having a lot of fun getting ready for our new seasons, and our biggest hits right now, happen to be us.
Yeah, you keep saying that,
So,
Alan. You got to go get some new
time.
content, man.
No, we got a lot of new stuff coming. So just go to darkoakmedia.com, click around, have a good time. And for everybody that texted in this morning wanting info on the Food Dude, just go to darkoakmedia.com and click on the Food Dude link.
Okay. Hey, Max, we got just a minute. We got to get to our must-have item of the week. This is going to be easy anyway, Alan.
Yep.
So if you've been to our Facebook page, you've seen it. Tell people what I'm holding up here, Alan.
You got a cup. You got a big old steel cup that will keep ice cold for days.
It is my 40-ounce tumbler, which these things are everywhere, and you're like, well, why is that a must-have item of the week?
No.
Well, Alan, I can't tell you how many job sites I'm on, and I see guys drinking bottle after bottle of water. They're throwing out it's wasteful.
Right.
These tumblers, you put some ice in the morning. You fill it up. It's good all day, man.
More importantly, it's a Buc-ee's tumbler.
Yeah, well, can we say that? I did get this from Buc-ee's, my favorite gas station.
Well, it's all right. They're an experience, and guys, call us. We'd love you to advertise with us.
Yeah, so just stay hydrated this weekend. But it's important. Not everybody does it, and this way you can do it without a lot of waste.
Well, the biggest thing here is you do not have tons of waste. You get to reuse that tumbler 100 times.
All right. Well, gosh, this show flew by, Alan, but it's over. We got to go home, man. So you've been listening to another action-packed and dynamic episode of Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. But it's time to get out of here. So happy 4th of July, everybody. We'll see you next week.